We're talking about the Matlock Reboot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that Matlock. But maybe not quite how you remember it. This show is actually popping up as a potential contender for the 2025 Emmys.
Which is surprising, right? And it stems largely from this really compelling article titled, Why Kathy Bates Matlock Reboot Deserves to Crash the Emmys 2025.
Okay, crash the Emmys. That's strong wording.
It is, and the article makes this fascinating case describing the show as prestige disguised in legalese.
Prestige disguised in legalese. Okay, unpack that a bit. What does that really mean?
Well, it's not just a clever line. It means, the show looks like a standard network legal drama on the surface, which, let's be honest, often get underestimated.
Right.
But underneath, it's delivering really complex character work, sharp societal commentary, the kind of stuff we usually expect from, say, a big HBO or streaming show.
Gotcha. So our mission today is basically to figure out how it's doing that.
Exactly. We'll dig into how Matlock, this new version, pulls that off, how Kathy Bates' performance is forcing people to rethink network procedurals and, give you the shortcut to understanding why the show is suddenly getting so much buzz. It might be more significant than it looks.
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard Matlock Reboot, I admit I probably rolled my eyes a little bit.
Sure.
We've seen so many of these attempts to just cash in on nostalgia. How does this article say this one's different right off the bat?
It tackles that head on. It says this isn't just a rehash. The 2024 Matlock takes the old CBS framework, but injects it with, I think the phrase was more sass, sharper commentary.
Okay, sass and commentary.
And a huge part of that, maybe the main part, is Kathy Bates.
Right. Stepping into that role, Madeline Matlock. And the article really paints a picture of her, doesn't it? Not just a lawyer, but, what was it? Sharp-tongued, steel-spined, legal juggernaut?
Yeah, quite the description.
It even says she's giving Gen Z and boomers alike a masterclass in justice. Yeah. That's a bold claim for a network show.
It is bold, and the source backs it up, saying she just absolutely eats every scene. It really emphasizes that her performance elevates the whole thing beyond simple nostalgia. It's a reinvention.
Okay, so that leads us back to that phrase, prestige disguised in legalese. Procedural dramas, they often get labeled as kind of formulaic. Maybe just background TV.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
How does Matlock shake off that label and earn this prestige tag, even in disguise?
That's really the core of the article's argument. It points out how these traditional procedurals, the case of the week shows, they're almost always ignored by the big awards. They get dismissed as that formulaic background noise.
Yeah.
And the article calls this outdated Emmy snobbery, suggesting quality gets unfairly tied only to, streaming giants or super complex ongoing stories. Matlock is positioned as a direct challenge to that thinking.
So it's not just saying, hey, this show is good. It's actually questioning how we even define award-worthy TV.
Precisely. It's asking voters, and maybe us too, to look past the format.
So how does it do it? How does it bring sophistication and soul, as the article puts it, to this genre?
Well, a lot of credit goes to the writing team. The article says they've sort of cracked the code.
Cracked the code? How?
By staying true enough to the original's appeal, the satisfaction of solving a case, but wrapping it all in today's moral chaos.
Today's moral chaos. Sounds intriguing.
And apparently they do this effectively, keeping viewers hooked without the usual bells and whistles of streaming budgets. It's efficient storytelling.
Okay, efficient. And what kind of moral chaos does the article give specific examples? What issues is it actually digging into?
Oh yeah, it does. It mentions tackling things like ageism, corporate corruption, and the flaws in the American legal system.
So pretty heavy stuff.
Definitely. It says the show gets its hands dirty in all the right ways, dealing with everything from toxic CEOs to broken institutions. It sounds surprisingly gritty and relevant for what you might expect from a Matlock reboot on a major network.
Okay, so the writing's sharp, it's tackling big issues. But the article keeps coming back to Kathy Bates, right? As the absolute key to why it might deserve an Emmy nod.
Undeniably.
It says she's doing way more than delivering closing arguments. She's educating. What's the idea behind that?
It speaks to the depth she brings. I mean, the article even jokes Kathy Bates could read a grocery list and still have us in tears, which captures her talent.
Yeah, fair point.
But in Matlock, it's more focused. Her performance becomes an Emmy-worthy statement about power, purpose, and experience. She's playing someone who isn't just winning cases, but through her actions, her presence, she's teaching, challenging, embodying that wisdom.
That makes sense. Is there any risk, though, that a performance that dominant could kind of overshadow everything else? Or does the article argue it lifts the whole show?
It definitely argues it lifts everything. It even brings in outside support for that idea, mentioning TV editor Deborah Birnbaum.
Okay, what does she say?
Birnbaum apparently believes Bates' performance might finally force Emmy voters to rethink their procedural bias. The idea is her sheer talent is so undeniable, it makes you reconsider the whole category the show belongs to.
Ah, okay. So her performance becomes a lever, almost, to challenge that bias.
Exactly. It's bigger than just one great acting job.
It's a statement about television.
Precisely. And the article doesn't mince words. It calls the show, or maybe Bates' role in it, Emmy necessary.
Wow, necessary.
Yeah. The core message is basically this great quote. If voters want to prove they are paying attention to powerful television beyond the streaming bubble, they better say yes, Your Honor.
Huh. I like that. It's a direct challenge.
It really is.
And then when you add in the other elements, the article mentions the sharp writing, diverse supporting cast, and Kathy Bates dominating like a courtroom Beyonce, which is just a fantastic line.
Was it?
It really paints a picture of something quite dynamic, makes you almost want to watch, just to see that energy.
Yeah, it builds a strong case for why it's getting attention.
Okay, so let's just quickly tie this together. What are the main takeaways from our deep dive here? It seems the Matlock reboot, the one with Kathy Bates, is way more than just, digging up an old show.
Definitely not just nostalgia.
Right. It's positioned as this surprisingly deep, relevant courtroom drama. And Kathy Bates' performance is central, not just good acting, but something that actively challenges those old ideas about network procedurals being less important than streaming shows.
It's forcing a conversation about genre bias, really, and suggesting it genuinely deserves Emmy consideration.
So as you're thinking about all this, maybe consider what it reveals about, well, our own biases.
Yeah.
How we judge TV shows based on where we watch them or what format they follow.
That's a great point. Are there other shows out there maybe flying under the radar because they're on a network or because they're procedurals that actually deserve a closer look? Deserve a serious reevaluation?
Something to think about.